topic every single problem set. In fact, many of the problem sets, what we're going to be doing is reinforcing what we've just learned, and that's what we're going to do in problem sets 10 and 11. What we've just learned is the difference between multiplication and addition, and it's really important that you keep these things separate because you can get really confused. When you multiply two positive numbers together, it's positive. Same is true when you add two positives. But when you multiply a positive times a negative, it's always negative. When you add a positive and negative, it depends on which is bigger. Same is true if you reverse the order. If you multiply a negative times a positive, it's always negative. When you add a negative plus a positive, it depends on which is bigger. And that's because the commutative law works for both multiplication and addition. This is really important. When you multiply two negatives, you'll see in class later that when you multiply two negatives, you'll always get a positive number. But when you add two negatives, it's always a negative number. So here we go. We're going to work some problems here that reinforces these properties of multiplication and addition. On this first one, when you multiply 4 times the quantity 5 plus negative 3, don't you work inside the parentheses first? So 5 plus 3 is 2, negative 4 times 2, your final answer should be negative 8. By the way, I hope you folks use your pause button and try these on your own first. You'll get a lot more out of it. And if I'm going too fast for you, you can always pause it also. In this next one, you're going to work inside the innermost parentheses. So you're going to add the negative 2 plus 7 and get a 5. Rewrite the whole problem down in each step. Now you would do the multiplication. Negative 4 times 5 gives you negative 20. So you get negative 23. On this next one, you work inside the parentheses. You can add those together and those together. Let's see, inside the parentheses you get a negative 9 there, you get a 3 there. Don't forget to bring the whole problem down. Now let's do the multiplication. The negative 2 times negative 9 is a positive 18. 18 times 3 is 54. Over here now, aren't you going to do the multiplications first and then the addition? You can multiply the negative 2 times negative 7 first, and you get positive 14. So you get 3 times 14 becomes, what, 42? 42 plus negative 18 is 24. Okay, on this one, this is to get a little more complicated here. You want to work inside the innermost parentheses, right? So that's going to be a negative 4 when you add those two together, but you bring the whole problem down. Don't be in too big a hurry. Make sure you write the whole problem down carefully here. This becomes a negative 4. Now inside of these square parentheses, don't you see negative 4 plus negative 3 times negative 4? Isn't this going to be a positive 12 when you do the multiplication? When you add the negative 4 to the 12, you get a positive 8. Final answer, negative 16. So these problems become a little more complicated here. Let me give you this last one, then I'll give you some to practice on your own. How about that? In the innermost parentheses, you see negative 11 plus 8, which gives you negative 3. You write the whole problem down, though. Inside of these parentheses, you see negative 4 plus 2 times negative 3. That becomes a negative 6 when you do that multiplication. Remember, that's a multiplication there. But you write the whole problem down. See how that becomes a negative 6? Now you look inside of these round parentheses, you see negative 4 plus negative 6. Remember, the order says to always work inside the innermost parentheses. So you get a negative 10. So what do you do next? Well, you look inside the curly parentheses, then you see negative 4 plus 3 times negative 10. So that becomes a negative 30 there. When you would add the negative 4 plus the 30, you get negative 34. And the last thing you do is multiply by negative 3, you get 102. Okay, well, let's give you a minute. Go ahead and try these problems on your own. Go ahead and hit the pause button, and then we'll go over these in just a minute, okay? Okay, here we go. In this first one, did you work inside the innermost parentheses? Did you do the addition here first? By the way, you could have also done the multiplication since this is a different part of the problem. If you did this multiplication, you should have gotten negative 20. If you did the addition, you should have gotten negative 7. And then when you do the multiplication next, so you should have gotten down to here at some point. Negative 20 plus 21, you should have gotten an answer of 1. The second one, did you work inside the parentheses first? This becomes a negative 7, this becomes a negative 4. Don't forget to write the whole problem down. So you should have gotten 21 plus 16, final answer 37. Alright. On this one, did you work inside the innermost parentheses? You should have gotten a 5 when you did that. And you write the whole problem down. I won't mark off if you don't do that. Write the whole problem down. And then inside these square parentheses, it's negative 4 plus negative 5 times 5. When you do the multiplication, you should have gotten a negative 25 there, right? When you add those together, you get a negative 29, but you brought the whole problem down. You do a multiplication next. Final answer should have been negative 61. Now on this last one, this looks kind of hard. Did you work inside the innermost parentheses? Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4, right? So you're up to here now. And then inside the square parentheses, it's negative 2 plus negative 2 times negative 4. Saying it out loud actually helps. It helps you see what to do next. So when you do the multiplications, you got a positive 8. Negative 2 plus 8 is 6. Final answer, negative 12. Okay, I want to work a few more problems here. And I'll give you some more to try. Let's look at the difference between these two problems right here. Negative 7 times 3 versus negative 7 times 3y. Okay, when you multiply negative 7 times 3, that's going to be negative 21. When you multiply negative 7 times 3y, don't forget, 3y means 3 times y. By the way, we have a name for this. Numbers that are being multiplied, numbers or expressions that are being multiplied are called factors. So in this problem, you would say there are 3 factors here. And what is negative 7 times 3 times y? Well, when you multiply the negative 7 times the 3, you get negative 21, and since you don't know what y is, you just leave it as negative 21y. Don't get it confused with this. This is negative 7 plus 3y. These are not factors at all. What are these called again when you have numbers that are added together? These are called terms. Are these like terms? No, you can't add them together. It's really hard to add things, isn't it? They have to have exactly the same letters, don't they? The same variables. Now these are not terms, these are factors. Now, in fact, you should look at number 14 and identify this. There's actually 4 factors here, aren't there? This is negative 7 times x times 3 times y. And since you can multiply the negative 7 times the 3 and get negative 21, your answer would be negative 21 times x times y. But what's negative 7x plus 3y? Well, are those like terms? Those are 2 terms, right? They're not like terms, so you can't do anything. See how much harder it is to add things than to multiply? They have to have exactly the same variables. Alright, so on this one, you could actually write this one as negative 2 times t times 3 times y times negative 1 times x. In fact, you could think of this as being 6 factors. And so what you could do here, do you see what's going on? You could multiply the negative 2. Let's multiply the negative 2 times the negative 1. Just use the commutative law. That becomes a 2. And what's 2 times 3? It's 6. And since you don't know what t, y, and x are, you could just write it as t, y, and x. Notice I changed the order here. I wrote it as t, x, y. I used the commutative law there. Let's do a couple more, then I'll give you some to try. How about that? Here, we work inside the innermost parentheses. Can you add those together? Why, yes, you can. Those are like terms. So when you add negative 3m, or when you add 3m plus 5m, you should get positive 8m. Then what is negative 2x times 8m? You should have gotten negative 16mx, or xm. Here, when you multiply, notice this is a multiplication. You're multiplying by... sometimes it might be nicer to put parentheses around the negative 5z, but you really don't need to. Anyway, if you write this as negative 1 times y times 3 times m times negative 5 times z, you could multiply the negative 1 times the 5 and get positive 5 times 3 is 15, and then you still have an myz. Alright, so let me give you a few to try. We'll give you these to try, we'll go over this, and that'll be it. So hit the pause button and try these on your own. Okay, let's go over these here. On this first one, did you add the like terms inside the parentheses? You should have gotten negative 2a. Now what is negative 7m times negative 2a? You should have gotten a positive 14am. Negative 7 times the negative 2 is 14, and then you could write it as ma or am, either one. It's kind of nice to write the letters in alphabetical order. On this second one, did you think of this as negative 5 times x times 3 times y times negative 1 times z? Then you could multiply the numbers together. Negative 5 times negative 1 is 5 times 3 is 15 times x, y, z. Last two, did you try to add these together? You could try, but you can't. They're not like terms, are they? And the very last one, if you do the multiplication here, negative 2x times 3y is negative 6xy, whereas negative 6y times negative x should be 6yx. Those are like terms, folks, because 6yx is the same as 6xy. And it turns out, what do you get when you add those together? You get 0. Remember? These are considered added inverses, aren't they? Alright, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.